This is a true story based on the 1989 Central Park jogger case, later known as the Central Park Five. The men would later insist on a different name, the Exonerated Five. At 9:05 p.m., the police already knew who did it. They just hadn't arrested them yet. That decision, made before evidence was gathered, before witnesses were interviewed, before facts were tested, would destroy 5 teenage lives and expose one of the most disturbing truths in modern criminal justice. Sometimes the crime isn't what happened. Sometimes the crime is what the system does next. New York City was afraid. Crime was rising. The media was screaming. Politicians were promising order. And the public wanted monsters, faces they could point to and say, "That's the problem." In April 1989, a female jogger, Trisha Maley, was brutally assaulted and raped while running in Central Park. The pressure to solve the case was immediate and ferocious. Within hours, 5 teenage boys, Antron McCray, Kevin Richardson, Yusef Salaam, Raymond Santana, and Korey Wise were in custody. They were between 14 and 16 years old. They were poor. They were black and Latino. And to the system, that was enough. Now, the confessions that should never have existed. No DNA evidence linked them to the crime. No physical evidence placed them at the scene. But the interrogations began anyway. They lasted hours, then longer, then all night. No lawyers, no parents, no sleep. Just authority figures repeating the same sentence until it sounded like fact. "We already know you did it." Fear does something to the human brain. It doesn't sharpen memory. It dissolves it. By morning, every boy had confessed. Not to the same crime, not to the same actions, but to whatever version would make the pressure stop. The videotaped confessions came after the damage was done. They contradicted each other and the crime scene. Yet the public watched those tapes and said the most dangerous sentence in true crime history. They wouldn't confess if they didn't do it. If you value cases where evidence matters more than certainty, subscribe. Subscribing keeps these investigations in public view. Attention is often the only accountability left. The prosecution didn't have proof, so they built a narrative. A story about wilding. A story about predators. A story the media repeated until it became truth by repetition. The jury didn't convict on facts. They convicted on fear. In 1990, all 5 boys were convicted and sentenced to prison or juvenile detention. Each guilty verdict was met with applause. The city exhaled. Justice, they said, had been served. Here comes the man no one wanted to hear from. Years later, an inmate came forward. In 2002, Macias Reyes confessed to the crime, providing details only the perpetrator could know. His DNA matched the crime scene conclusively. There was no ambiguity. The boys were innocent. All 5 convictions were vacated. They were fully exonerated. New York City later settled a civil lawsuit for wrongful conviction damages. But here where the outrage deepens. The system did not rush to correct itself. It resisted. It delayed. It protected its own reputation before repairing lives. There was no apology loud enough to match the damage. One boy lost his childhood. Another lost his education. Another lost his mental health. Some lost decades. No one in power lost their career. The boys lost everything. Join me as we X-ray what most investigators don't want you to know. First, the most dangerous criminal is confirmation bias. Once guilt is assumed, evidence is no longer evaluated, it is recruited. Second, confessions feel like truth, even when they are psychologically manufactured. Under fear and exhaustion, especially in adolescence, the brain prioritizes escape over accuracy. Third, the system rewards closure, not correctness. Police are rewarded for arrests, prosecutors for convictions, media for outrage. None of these incentives reward being wrong later. Fourth, fear does not make us safer, it makes us careless. Moral panic collapses due process. Justice didn't fail despite public fear, it failed because of it. Fifth, punishing the innocent does not reduce crime, it preserves it. In 2019, marking 30 years since the Central Park jogger case, Tricia Mailey publicly expressed remorse for the role her case played in the wrongful convictions of the Exonerated Five. Speaking during a panel tied to When They See Us, she acknowledged the profound harm suffered by the men and their families and recognized the systemic bias that allowed the injustice to occur. Her apology drew mixed reactions, praised by some as a necessary act of accountability, questioned by others as insufficient without structural reform. For the five men, it offered validation and a measure of healing, while reigniting broader conversations about racial bias, wrongful convictions, and the urgent need for systemic change. If you've watched this far, here's the final takeaway. This case still splits audiences today. Were these boys victims of a broken system, or of a system working exactly as designed? Because the most unsettling truth is this: the justice system does not primarily protect the innocent. It protects its own conclusions.
In the darkness, whispers become screams, secrets become weapons, and the truth becomes deadly. This is True Crime Mysteries, The Shadow Lens. Every week, we uncover the stories they don't want you to know, disappearances, cold cases, and the mysteries hiding in plain sight. Subscribe now, and step into the shadows with us.